US President Joe Biden says he's ready to sit down and convene with Russian President Vladimir Putin if he was serious about ending the invasion of Ukraine. As Russia introduces new state censorship laws on publishing material, publishers themselves are unclear about what might unfold for the future of the industry. US President Joe Biden has indicated he would be willing to talk with Vladimir Putin if the Russian leader demonstrated that he seriously wanted to end the invasion. Biden's comments was made in answer to a journalist's question during the state visit of French President Emmanuel Macron. The US President conditions such talks on support by NATO allies, and he has had no direct contact with Moscow since the war broke out in February. Biden and Putin last met in Geneva, Switzerland in June of last year, before the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, when talks were primarily centred on disarmament and concerns over cybersecurity.
Ukraine claims that Russia has withdrawn troops from towns near the front line outside the southern city of Kherson. But at the same time, Moscow continues to shell the local population. Electricity was once again down for many residents. And as a result, civilians continue to flee the city for areas further into the interior of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe has been meeting in Poland. It's one of the few international bodies where Russia and the West can still talk. With no signs of peace negotiations between the two sides, Ukraine's foreign minister took the opportunity to launch this appeal for justice.
Without ensuring accountability for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, there would be no lasting peace and security within the OSCE. That is why a special tribunal to address the crime of aggression must be created.
France is the first major Western country to explicitly support the creation of such a court. Meeting at the White House on Thursday, President Emmanuel Macron and his American counterpart Joe Biden condemned Russia's attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure. President Biden said he would be willing to talk to the Russian leader Vladimir Putin if he's ready to end the war.
Switzerland has frozen financial assets worth 7.5 billion Swiss francs under new sanctions against Russians for the war in Ukraine. The SCCO, an agency overseeing the sanctions, says 15 properties in 6 cantons have also been blocked.
I think we have to distinguish between the 7.1 billion francs that we mentioned as frozen funds, which are funds and assets of persons who have been on sanctions lists by the EU and who have been taken over by us. The 46.9 billion are assets of people who are not sanctioned. These are Russian persons who have their capital in Switzerland, and they would also see this difference in the EU if the figures published by the EU were correct.
Up until June, the agency had been notified of existing deposits held by Russian nationals and legal entities, amounting to 46.1 billion francs. This was far below the Russian wealth estimated.
I can only guess what's behind it. On the other hand, securities are not included in this 46.1 billion, not even in the EU. And all the persons who live or reside in Switzerland or the EU are not recorded. That is a lot of people.
Neutral Switzerland has routinely adopted European Union sanctions that aim to punish Russia for invading its neighbour. But pressure has been mounting on the country, a popular destination for Russia's elite, to quickly identify and freeze assets of hundreds of sanctioned Russians. As of July, Switzerland had frozen Russian financial assets worth 6.7 billion Swiss francs. The European Commission on Wednesday proposed a plan to confiscate frozen Russian assets, but Switzerland has no legal basis at this stage to take such a step.
A US federal appeals court has removed a major hurdle facing a criminal investigation into whether former US President Donald Trump illegally stored top-secret documents at his private home. In a previous ruling, Trump's lawyers had successfully argued that a special master should be appointed to conduct an independent review of whether certain documents would be protected by presidential executive privilege. After a unanimous decision of 3 judges, this has now ended. The investigation came to light after Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Florida home was raided by the FBI in August. Trump has denied the allegations against him, calling the investigation politically motivated. Despite facing other civil and criminal cases against him, Trump recently announced that he will run again for president in 2024.
And we, in the end, will win. Our country will win. We will win.
US rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, has been suspended from Twitter just weeks after his account was reinstated, after posting a string of offensive tweets, one of which appeared to show an image of a swastika combined with the Jewish Star of David.
I just want to take a picture right now.
In response, Twitter's new boss, Elon Musk, posted that Ye had violated our rule against incitement to violence and said his account would be banned. The Chicago-born artist has made headlines for a wave of anti-Semitic comments in recent weeks, including praising Hitler in an interview with conspiracy theorist Alex Jones on Thursday. His remarks have led to him being suspended from social media platforms and dropped by talent agencies and companies that produced his fashion line and products. The sportswear manufacturer Adidas has also launched an investigation into his conduct after employees said Ye created a toxic environment by showing them explicit pictures of his former wife, Kim Kardashian.
Russia's new anti-LGBT laws and laws against so-called foreign agents, passed after the invasion of Ukraine, have publishers worried that their arts have been left unprotected against possible censorship.
If these rules are being interpreted extensively, this could affect a large volume of literature, including classic literature. Everything will depend on how we communicate with regulating authorities.
There's also concern that publishers and authors will impose their own limits on what they produce for fear of reprisal.
Lots and lots of restrictions. Of course, they affect the work of a publisher, especially self-censorship. The publishers are frightened in general.
Historically, however, state censorship has led to radical or groundbreaking books generating more attention among certain readers. During the Soviet era, state restrictions led to so-called samizdat publication, the clandestine creation and distribution of literature banned by the state.
US streaming service Netflix has released a trailer for a much-anticipated 6-part documentary about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan's life as British royals. The couple, who retained their titles as Duke and Duchess of Sussex, partnered with Netflix for several million euros.
No one sees what's happening behind the closed doors.
The series is expected to lift the lid on the couple's relationship with the royal family and why they parted ways. They chose to step away from royal duties for a number of reasons, including what they allege was racism from the family and British media.
When the stakes are this high, doesn't it make more sense to hear our story from us?
The trailer's release coincides with Harry's brother William's first trip to the US as Prince of Wales and another race row at Buckingham Palace. Earlier this week, a palace aide was forced to resign after accusations of racist comments towards a black visitor. Netflix hasn't announced a release date, but a close friend and biographer of the couple said the series would air on December 8th.
Auf Wiedersehen, Deutschland. Germany has been ejected from the 2022 Qatar World Cup after a shock Japanese victory over Spain on Thursday evening. The Mannschaft has had difficulty imposing itself during this tournament after losing their first match to Japan 2-1 and securing a 1-1 draw with Spain. Germans were counting on a Spanish victory to drag them into the knockout stages, but saw their hopes dashed, much to the resignation of some fans.
Nobody expected Japan to win against Spain, but in the end we deserved to be eliminated. You have to admit, it's been confirmed in previous years and again this time. So I'm disappointed, but somehow I expected it again.
I'll still watch some games, but my interest in the World Cup won't be any greater or lesser just because Germany have been eliminated.
Enthusiasm for this edition was already low, with viewing figures for Germany's games being well below their usual levels. Mired in controversy over host nation Qatar's human rights record, some football fan clubs have called for a boycott of games.